How's it going out there? It's April 14th. I'm Frank Curzio, host of the Wall Street Unplugged podcast, where I break the headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. What a day. Huge, huge day. One of the biggest in the history of crypto. Coinbase is launching its IPO, top story. It's priced at $250. The expected price is $340 of what it's going to come out. When you're listening to this, it will have opened and you'll see a much better price. I'm doing this at 11 a.m. You guys are probably going to listen to this around 6, 7 p.m., most of you, based on my statistics that we look at. But at $340, that price is around a $75 billion valuation. Okay, so that's the indication right now. I'm getting $340. I have everything on, and if it does actually start trading, I will let you know during this podcast. Now, Coinbase is the premier crypto company in the United States. Key there is in the United States. Because we look at the U.S., I mean, really, really, really late to this party. I'm talking about in terms of compliance, which will help adoption, creates innovation, not to mention the tax revenue you're going to generate from a $2 trillion plus market if you regulate it properly. But I can't tell you how many companies I've come across that I spoke to personally in crypto, especially security tokens, that are launching and having their base overseas because in the U.S., it's just such a gray area. If they do come down heavily on regulating on certain things, they could shut down their business. Said, hey, we'll open operations overseas and we'll try to do a little bit of business in the U.S. I'm going to try to avoid it a little bit, but the U.S. has been late to the party. Really late. Every country is kicking our ass, even China, right? China's like, all right, we're starting our own cryptocurrency, the yuan. That's going to be interesting. Of course, they want to compete with the dollar. Maybe it does. Not anytime soon, but that's the goal there. But is the U.S. just going to sit on their hands and do nothing? I don't know. But this changes it, right? Coinbase coming out, U.S. company, regulated. In the meantime, looking at Binance, Kraken, tons of global crypto exchanges, and even lots of crypto companies that trade on these exchanges have soared, absolutely soared in value. And when I say soared, I'm not talking about some of you take 100% gain or 3x gain, a 5x gain, or even 10x returns, which are the returns you should expect if you are taking on a considerable amount of risk. This is what I've done for most of my career when it comes to small caps. You always want to make sure that reward is worth the risk that you're taking. That risk could be, all your money if you're willing to lose that money for massive returns. But these gains in cryptos just over the past 12 months, and some of these names are up 15x, 20x, even 30x plus. And every investor should be willing to lose 100% of your investment if your potential gains are 20x plus over the next 12 months. I mean, you invest in biotech, you invest in junior miners, your returns are probably not 20x or expectations of 20x. You're like, hey, if I can get like 3x times my money, that's great. Imagine there was a shot that you could make more than that, which is happening in crypto, and that's why it's frustrating for the U.S. because outside of Coinbase and whatever 50 pairs they have or trading or whatever, a lot of really good cryptos are surging in value, which some U.S. investors don't have access to. Most of them don't. Now, when I say putting 100% or losing 100% of your investment to get those gains, I'm not telling every retired investor out there, throw your whole 401k into, Dogecoin, whatever, right? I mean, that's not what I'm saying. But every investor should have a little money that they speculate on to where if you lose it, it's not a big deal. But if you hit, those gains could be life-changing. That's what you do when you kind of go to a casino anyway. You got to expect to lose 100, 200, 500,000, 10, whatever you go in there to lose. And if you hit, you want to hit absolutely big. So people have played a lotto. And we know the odds on that. These odds are much better. But if you get a 30x return and say whatever a large investment is to you out there, if it's $500, $100, maybe it's $5,000, 10 grand, maybe it's $1 million, whatever. Everybody's different. But say if you invest $5,000 with the opportunity to get 30x returns, if you're right and you nail it, that's $150,000. That's the thing. If you hit, or if you don't hit, okay, you lose that portion of your money. But if you do hit, it could result in life-changing gains. That's the goal. And cryptos provide that right now. And maybe that will change, but it's red hot. Lots more institutions getting in, everybody going crazy. When I look at the U.S., they're so behind on this trend. But now Coinbase is public. It means they're SEC, FINRA regulated. Done everything by the book. This is going to lead to more innovation. More security token exchanges opening, which provide a way for small companies like ours, like we did with our CEO token, to raise money from investors, because one of the biggest incentives is being able to trade these shares just 12 months later. I mean, even sooner under Reg A laws. This is a big deal. Just the beginning. But when I look at the Coinbase IPO and the timing of this, a lot of stuff I'm going to say you're not going to hear anyplace else. Okay, this is the industry I'm in, and yes, CNBC's covering it like crazy. Everybody's covering it. I'm not going to repeat exactly what you could watch on TV. That's not why you listen to this. It's the real story. Behind the scenes and numbers. I'm going to break down a few things for you today. It's going to be really fun when it comes to this Coinbase IPO. Because when you look at it and the timing of this, these guys have gotten so, I'm going to use a word from New York that maybe you guys don't, so assy. So we use the word assy when someone gets extremely lucky. We say, man, I guess so assy. Extremely, extremely lucky when it comes to the timing of this IPO. Now, why is that? Well, if you look at Coinbase, they first announced a potential IPO and talked about it. And this was in mid-2017, going to late 2017, when Bitcoin topped 19,000, new high. Everyone going crazy. It was awesome. I think Ethereum was 1,200 then, 1,300. Which it fell to whatever, 100. Bitcoin crashed after that. But when the market was hot in 2017, that's when they put this idea into motion. And they started talking to the regulators, how do we have to do this? Well, we could operate as a regular broker-dealer capable of offering blockchain-based securities on that platform under the oversight of the SEC and FINRA. Now, to do this, they needed those proper licenses. And instead of filing for them, which could take years, and I know it takes years because some of these companies that I know just received these licenses to open up security token exchanges, or alternative trading platforms, they're called. Could take years. Very, very long time. So Coinbase had the right advisors. You know what they did? They acquired 3 companies at the exact same time. Keystone Capital, Venovate Marketplace, and Digital Wealth. And these companies provided Coinbase with a broker-dealer license, an alternative trading system license, and alternative trading platforms that's T0, is an alternative trading, they're not exchange, and a registered investment advisor license. And they got all these. When? That was June 2018. So the writing was on the wall in terms of Coinbase looking to do an IPO. It's just a matter of when they were going to do it. When would be the best timing? They also created a tax center, which you see on every major online brokerage firm where, you could, whatever, just capital gains, 1099s, everything, right? Just go there, you can get all your tax. They created that as well, which is important. Important steps so the IRS can get its dollars. You can track Bitcoin since, there is a black market for Bitcoin in other countries. In a few ways, you could transfer money in and out of a country very, very easily. Something you can't do with gold and take all your gold on a plane with you. I'm not saying that gold is bad. I'm invested in gold. Just bringing up a point here. They also shed lots of accounts. Got rid of some of their accounts that were not KYC AML compliant. It's know your customer, anti-laundering. They do these checks when you open up a bank account, when you open a brokerage firm. I mean, if you have a warrant for your arrest for something and you open up a brokerage account, they're going to be knocking on your door. You're going to provide your address and everything. They do this. They just don't say it. But you have to really say it right now in crypto because you want to make sure we're checking off all those boxes and that everyone's money is safe. When they first opened, there was some accounts that couldn't be verified. And they're like, okay, we got rid of them. Why? Because they were working with the SEC. And this is what they said what you needed to do to go public. Good for them. Again, doing all this in effort to go public, IPO. So now in June 2018, Bitcoin fell to 7,000. That was down from 19,000 in late 2017. Pulled back pretty sharply. But then by December 2018, it got even worse. It went to 3,000 and change. I mean, from 19,000 to 3,000 in a year in less than a year is an insane move for entire market. And the crypto market remained super depressed for pretty much all of 2018, which would have made it nuts to come out. It's like, launching your uranium company, right after Fukushima. Not a good idea. Took what? When did that happen? 2010, I think? Took 12 years. Finally, uranium's doing well. Uranium price was what? 120? Well, what are they now? 30 still? Still low? Most can't produce below 50? Glad to see there's uranium people, and I'm invested in uranium, very heavily invested in uranium that I've held for a long time, doing very, very well, great market, but I'm just bringing up a point here, comparing it. So now we're looking at a market in 2018 that was terrible. So what did Coinbase do? They stopped publishing their financials. And so did Binance, by the way. They were publishing, oh, we're great, look how much we're growing, this is awesome. Then things bad. No, they just stopped. They didn't have to, right? Because they weren't public. Then they were like, maybe this IPO thing might be just a pipe dream. Who knows? But by mid-2019, Bitcoin started coming back again. It surged to 11,000. Very nice move considering the low was 3,000 in 2018. But this move turned out to be a little bit of a head fake because Bitcoin crashed another 50% to 6,500. And this is around May 2020. Stick with me with the timelines, the reason why I'm giving it. But from May 2020, the crypto market started to surge again. This was brought on by the birth of DeFi, decentralized finance, major trend within crypto, which created new buzz around crypto, sending lots of individual names within this trend absolutely soaring. 20x, 30x, 40x. I mean, things that were trading at like 15 cents or 10 cents were like trading at $7, $8. Unbelievable moves when you look at some of these DeFi companies. And rightly so. It is a pretty amazing trend. That's what you need. So now you're seeing the market start coming back, and Coinbase, hey, we're getting excited again because they already had the proper licenses. They did all the work in 2018, 2019. They were SEC compliant, had the right lawyers in place, right people in place. And of course, now they have the market in place, which is the most important thing. That's when you want to launch an IPO. Right now, you want to launch an IPO no matter what because the market's at all-time highs and people are throwing money into anything. That's why you see crazy SPACs that don't make sense. Companies that were being valued at, say $300 million 3 weeks before, SPAC comes in and say, we're merging with it, and the valuation is like $1.2 billion in 3 weeks. They should make it $10 billion. They're going to make it $80 billion if demand is there for people to buy it. They're going to make more money, and they're going to be out of these things in 4 months. That's the goal for a lot of these companies. Not Coinbase, but just a lot of these investors in SPACs. But you need the market, and the market is right there. Overall market, but also the crypto market started going nuts. So now, by December 2020, Bitcoin hits a new high, surges over 20,000, about 22,000. So the crypto market's total market cap hovered around $700 billion. The whole market cap of all cryptos. And Coinbase said, okay, now's the time. They use a strong market to file its IPO with the SEC in December. Now, here's why it's better to be lucky than good. And by the way, Coinbase is a great company. But the luck here is amazing. Because they filed in December, Coinbase was being valued at $25 billion. This was based on having 35 million users, $25 billion in assets, and $320 billion in trading volume. Stay with me. I'm going to repeat those numbers. Now remember, those numbers I just gave you, that was in December. That was just 4 months ago. So the total market cap of all crypto, the whole market's $700 billion. Bitcoin was around 22,000, and I just told you that 35 million users, 25 billion assets, 320 billion in trading volume when it filed. Then Bitcoin went absolutely insane. By the end of January, it doubled to 40,000. In February, it went to 50,000. In March, it went to 60,000, and now today it hit 64,000, a brand new high. The total market cap of cryptos went from 700 billion to 2.3 trillion. This is inside of 4 months. 200% plus growth in an entire market. So what does Coinbase do? Well, they get the filing date, a couple weeks ago, which is April 14th, which is today, and it's coming out, IPO. But 2 weeks ago, Coinbase did something interesting. They released its quarterly results. It's kind of weird since this is a private company. I mean, you usually have to dig through like the S1s or whatever and to go through the financials. No. Coinbase said, Look what we did this quarter in Q1. You don't see that from private companies before the IPO. You have to dig through the financials, and then, because I love doing that. I love digging and saying, whoa. And I said that about Lyft, saying if you won't Lyft, you're going to be in trouble. These guys inflated that market completely in the last 6 months, and nothing has really changed. I had full studies on it, and I broke it down and was right on that. But I love that part because when you go public, you have to create this beautiful portrait that you are the greatest. You're seeing massive growth. Everything's awesome. That's the goal. That's how you get this thing launched. So I usually love that part when F1s get filed and they have to report the financials and their risks and stuff, and you dig through that. I like that. Kind of like a puzzle that you want to try to just find different things out, and everyone, the numbers are there for everyone. It's just how you interpret them, and I love doing that, interpret those numbers. Showing people exactly what they mean. But no, Coinbase didn't do that. They actually came out with their results. So why did they release the results early? Because they were absolutely insane. They were awesome. And they made Goldman Sachs numbers look like crap. You saw Goldman's numbers today. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just the evil empire, but man, those guys know how to make money. They really do. And I'm glad that Goldman Sachs is a holding in a Curzio Research Advisory newsletter. Got in a little bit over 200. It's over 320, 330 now. It's going to 400 easily. But those numbers just, we just said liquidity, volatility, those are the greatest things for Goldman, and that's going to continue for the next 3 to 5 years at least, as long as we have money being injected like crazy, which is to the tune of $10.5 trillion. When you look at fiscal, monetary, it's $10.5 trillion, and that doesn't include the $2.3 trillion infrastructure that we're looking to pass. Put that in perspective, guys, that's close to 50% of GDP. You wonder why stocks are going up? You wonder why everyone's spending like crazy? Because they're all getting checks at the same time, handed for free. And now they're not as locked up as they were in the house, the COVID, as restrictions are easing. So good job by Goldman. But getting back to Coinbase numbers, absolutely insane. This is for Q1. Okay, 2 weeks ago. Reported that they generated $1.8 billion in revenue just for the quarter. That's an 11-fold increase and 58% more than it collected for the entire year in 2020. Again, these are quarterly results. And right now, I'm looking at it being valued. Now the indication is $350, so around a $75-80 billion valuation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a $100 billion valuation by the end of the day. I mean, so much excitement built around this right now. But in terms of timing, it doesn't get better than that. I mean, how lucky was Coinbase reporting those numbers, which are absolutely perfect. So Coinbase, when they reported their quarterly results, 2 weeks ago, and I told you to remember some numbers, but I'm going to bring them up again. Because when they filed in December, they're a lot different than what they are now. Coinbase said it now has 56 million users. They had 35 million in December. That's a massive, massive amount of users for 4 months, or just a few months. 233 billion in assets on the platform. In December, they said they had 25 billion. Trading volume was 335 billion for the quarter. For entire 2020, their total trading volume was 320 billion for the year. Last quarter, it was 335 billion. Yeah, just for 3 months. Insane growth, but perfect timing. I mean, I can tell you when they did this, crypto's hot. Nobody thought Bitcoin, it was only 22,000 in December, would be 63,000 in April. And man, as a result, exploded in trading and assets and everything crypto, and everyone's getting involved in it now, and it's incredible. But in terms of timing, it doesn't get better than that because, if you look at past IPOs, Facebook came out in the 50s. I think it was 2012 as that IPO. And it fell sharply to the point Morgan Stanley had to come out to try to stabilize the stock. And yes, they figured out how to make money, and they did very, very well, and they're doing well now for all shareholders. Is it $310, over $300 now, Facebook? But it came out in the 50s. I think it fell to the 30s. 2004, Google's IPO. Remember that? They actually had to drop the price from $108 to $85 because nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted it. And when it started trading weeks ahead, it went back up to 100, which was cool. But they had to drop it. They had to drop the price. Google. And it's 2004. So the market started coming back, right? 2004. We had the terrible market conditions for 3 years after the tech bubble crash, or dot-com crash. But in 2003, we saw tech companies come back. 2004, decent year. And that's when the growth actually went, started to go nuts. So Google back then, it gave it a $27 billion valuation, its IPO. To put that in perspective, Google's market cap is a mere $1.5 trillion. But these guys had trouble launching their IPOs. I mean, the market didn't really, you need that market, a positive conditions, bullish conditions. And they really didn't have that too much when it came to Facebook and Google. But Coinbase, totally opposite. I mean, it doesn't get better. The timing could not have been better. Could not, with everything working out in their favor. And now you're seeing it mentioned everywhere, crypto. We talk about it a lot. Something that we're into very much at Curzio Research. But everyone's getting interested in it now because they're seeing the gains. They feel that fear of missing out is a real thing. When you see your friends saying, "Oh, I bought this and my $1,000 turned into $15,000 and $20,000," you keep saying that, it goes higher and higher. People want to learn more about it, and they're starting to learn more and get more involved. And now Coinbase is the place they go to. You have the market at an all-time high, tons of institutions adopting Bitcoin. I'd say we're about 3% of the way. That was based on my interview with Zach Prince from BlockFi, $3 billion company I interviewed a few weeks ago. It's about 3 to 5% in terms of adoption. Demand through the freaking roof. Everybody wants cryptos now. But very nice job by Coinbase, because sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Again, although Coinbase is a great company, well run, that's profitable and growing very fast. But, and you know what they said about the word but? Whenever you say but, everything you say before that is meaningless. It's not meaningless. That's it. But, and I'm saying that but, okay. Let's break down the numbers a little. And this is for all of you who are looking to buy Coinbase when it either opens up later today, and maybe you bought it already because you're going to be listening to this later on if the market's closed, or you're going to buy it tomorrow or next week. So Coinbase reported $1.8 billion in revenue last quarter. Operating income rose to over $1 billion, which was double from last year. Again, the results are amazing. That's why they published them. They didn't have to. That's why they published them. Gives them more excitement for here, raises that target, raises that IPO price. Again, that indication is at $350 right now. You're looking at $1.8 billion in revenue, operating income of $1 billion. And we're talking monster margins there, right? Why are margins so high? So that's something I wanted to know and I wanted to dig into. And if you look at Coinbase, they charge 0.5% flat fees on trades most of the time. Bigger clients maybe a little bit less depending on how much you trade, but on average around 0.5%. And those trading fees is where the company generates more than 85% of its sales from, right? Those trading and fees. Probably more like 87, 88%, according to their filing. Now, when we compare that to Intercontinental or NASDAQ, these are publicly traded companies that own exchanges. These guys on average make 0.01% per trade. That amounts to Coinbase having 50x the margins of NASDAQ and Intercontinental. Now, I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos said this, and if he didn't, somebody said it and Jeff Bezos stole it from him. But regardless, I like this quote. Most of the time I don't quote. If you're going to say something, be original. You have to quote somebody else. But I will say this. This is one of the quotes I like. Is your margins are my opportunity. That's how Amazon looks at things. These are incredible monster margins. Insane. I know what you're thinking. NASDAQ, Intercontinental, they're not crypto platforms. So not direct competitors. True, but not for long. We talk about a $2 trillion, $2.3 trillion market. If you really believe Bitcoin's going to 100,000, it's going to be $3.5 trillion. There's a reason why Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs are jumping into this market now because it's just too big to ignore. They're just leaving money on the table. That's for real. You look at Binance. Binance already released a crypto that allows you to buy fractional shares in Tesla. So I'm sure FANG names are going to be next in every stock trading on the New York Stock Exchange. That's a positive. That's why they may, Coinbase and other exchanges may take market share from U.S. exchanges. But it's just a matter of time before certain cryptos are able to be bought through your E-Trade, Fidelity, Schwab accounts, your online brokers. Just a matter of time. It's a certainty. Now that Coinbase has paved the road in terms of getting the proper regulation, FINRA, SEC, this opens a door for these firms to trade. And again, it's such a big market, they're going to get in. They have the proper licenses. They could do it. Just a matter of getting the technology and hiring people, maybe from Coinbase now. Which Coinbase, by the way, has a larger market cap than, I think, almost every exchange, the market caps of exchanges combined in the U.S. But you're looking at Robinhood, Kraken, Binance, Gemini, these are other crypto exchanges. What are they going to do? And what did Robinhood do to disrupt the entire online brokerage industry? They said no fees. No fees. And were they being valued at? I mean, before everything went nuts with them with Reddit and GameStop, I think it was about $15 billion, I think they were being valued at. And they disrupted the entire industry. They forced all these online brokers to offer no fees. And yes, they make money on trading and they're doing well, that's fine. But you look at Robinhood, Kraken, Binance, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to lower their trading fees to get business. They may even go to a free trading model. And what's going to happen to Coinbase? Remember, 85% of their revenue comes from trading and fees, and their margins are insanely high. That's cool. Now, what I found interesting during Coinbase's Q1 in that press release, the company did not provide any sales or earnings guidance. If you're going to report early because you got great numbers, you should provide guidance. And I get that's tough considering what we saw over the past 4 months in crypto, which has been insane. And then also what we saw in 2018 when crypto crashed by 80%. So it's hard to offer guidance. But at this insane valuation, how does Coinbase not offer guidance? And more important, how does an investor buy this name without having just a little insight of what's coming down the line? Because I can tell you, if this is a stock and it's a high growth name, like NVIDIA or whatever, and again, they got away with not offering guidance because of COVID. Now they're going back to offering guidance. But this is a high growth stock trading on the NASDAQ, and they report and they don't offer guidance. The stock's going to fall pretty hard. There's no excuse for you now to not offer guidance. There's not. Now they figure out COVID. Maybe, supply chain issues for NVIDIA, or it's not really impacting NVIDIA, but it's impacting a lot of companies within that space. But you want to see that guidance. If it doesn't, the stock's going to fall hard. Why? Because no guidance means uncertainty. And uncertainty is something that investors hate. There's a reason why Alibaba's shares surged after they got fined by the China government, because it removes the uncertainty. When you have that uncertain environment and you have no idea how much that fine's going to be, people don't want to deal with the company. I don't want to deal with uncertainty. Hell with that. No way. So you see almost every time a company settles a lawsuit, as long as it doesn't put them out of business, the stock's going to go higher because you're removing the doubt. Now you could forecast. You can focus on the business now, not lawyer bullshit and everything that you've been fighting for 5, 7, 10 years. So for me, I'm surprised Coinbase didn't offer guidance. I mean, you offered Q1 sales and earnings when you were not a public company. So why not provide guidance? Good question. Coinbase did provide monthly transaction users. Those are called MTUs, monthly transaction users. They provide that guidance for 2021, which is 5.5 million. That's the midpoint of what they said, 5.5 million. Now, what is MTU? They measure it with retail investors on their site who make a transaction on their platform one or more times during a rolling 28-day period. That's how it's defined. Just monthly transaction users. A lot of companies do daily active users and average revenue per user. They do monthly transaction users. Very, very big metric in this space. Now, when I looked at 5.5 million guidance they offered, that's lower. Actually lower than the 6.1 million MTUs Coinbase reported in their quarter from just 2 weeks ago. Why are you predicting lower guidance? Especially for this metric, which you made it clear by reporting this, is the key metric. I'm not going to say don't buy Coinbase here. Absolutely not. It's a great company. The stock can go to 200, 300. You can do that in 2 weeks for all I know. I have no idea where these stocks go. I would have told you Tesla was expensive at 300, right? It's 650 or 750 now. No one's making fun of Cathie Wood for buying anymore, right? Amazing. You look at Coinbase and the risks I mentioned. I mean, that guidance, when I look more into it, I mean, Coinbase may be doing it, which is pretty smart, I guess, for an early stage company to underpromise and overdeliver. You don't want to report crazy guidance and then go under. So maybe that number is kind of conservative. Maybe. And even the risks I talk about trading fees, and a lot of competitors go into a free model. Managers well aware of this. They know. It's in the risks. They're going to look for more ways to generate massive fees, maybe through investment banking, more lending, whatever it is. You're going to try to figure it out. But what I do know about Coinbase, when it comes, and not just Coinbase, but companies that command a high valuation, when they have those high valuations, they command future growth. You need to see huge growth going forward. That's why your stock is expensive. That's what investors want to see. They want to see that guidance. And Coinbase, they may have trouble meeting those estimates, depending on where crypto goes over the next few quarters. Especially when it comes to new competition. You opened up the door. That's cool. AOL opened up the door. Look where they are. Research in Motion opened up the door for smartphones. Look where they are. So Coinbase can't afford to sit on its hands and say, hey, we did it. No. This is a massive market that the biggest companies and most well-run investment banks in the world are pushing, going all in on right now, because this is a major market. And they have to be prepared. Are they? We'll see. But lower trading fees are definitely coming, so the margins are not going to be as high. That's a given. And then you look at crypto. And we haven't really seen a pullback since May 2020. Yeah, 10% here, 10% there, which is not a big deal for Bitcoin because 2 weeks later it went right back to its highs. I'm talking about a major pullback like we saw in March, 30% decline and 30 whatever percent decline. And it did come back to markets, right, with COVID. But since May 2020, this has been one of the greatest bull markets you've ever seen. It's incredible. But you can't assume the total crypto market is going to surge another 200% plus over the next 4 months like it did from December to April. Maybe that's why they're not offering guidance. I can tell you, when the market crashed, Coinbase stopped reporting their numbers in 2018. They were reporting them in 2017. That's great. But then they stopped. So did Binance, because as crypto started coming down and there's a lot of leverage in it, and people began getting killed and not trading as much, those numbers went down considerably. And they're private and they didn't have to report them. But this is based on how crypto does. If we see Bitcoin go to 100,000, Coinbase is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries. But it better go higher, because at this valuation, there's lots of expectations built in. Now, you can go ahead and buy Coinbase, and it is a great company, an awesome company, and congratulations to them, because this is going to change the market. The U.S. is going to regulate these things. You're going to see more adoption, more innovation. So congrats to them. But for me, which is why you listen to me, is to find investment ideas, a much better way to play this, if you truly think Bitcoin's going to 100,000. If you don't buy Coinbase, obviously. Just, don't buy crypto. But if you really believe that it's going a lot higher, you should play it through pure plays like Voyager Digital. That's VYGVF is the symbol. Silvergate Capital, SI. You can even buy the Binance token, BNB is a symbol. You're not going to get an equity stake in it, but this is a utility token that has tons and tons and tons of uses. And that's all these things are worth, right? It's a utility token. What's the utility? Most of these names, there's 100 cryptos now. 100 cryptos with $1 billion more valuation. And I can tell you, 85% of them, you have no idea what that token represents. And a lot of them don't even have any utility. So the token is worthless. It's like Dave & Buster's, right? When you slide your card, if it's empty, it's worthless. But if you have the card, you can go to all Dave & Buster's and play. But if Dave & Buster's closed down, that card's worthless. It's a utility. Same with these tokens. So Binance has more functions and more utilities for its token than any token I know in the world. And this is something that's been on our portfolio for a while. We've done well on. In fact, all three of these names we have in our Crypto Intelligence newsletter, which we're up huge on. How much? Voyager is up 30x plus in our Crypto Intelligence newsletter. SI, Silvergate, is up 12x. And BNB, recommended probably like 2 years ago, around there, I think. Don't quote me on that. We're also up 30x plus on this name. I know what you're thinking. Frank, you really telling me to buy these things when they're up 30x? Yeah. I mean, I would normally never recommend stocks that were up so much because you feel like, oh, okay, I missed it. But did you miss it? Because these are pure play stocks that you could buy. And this is what we're providing in Crypto Intelligence, where it's not just all cryptos, and we teach you how to buy these cryptos and what exchanges. But there's a lot of pure play stocks that we've gotten into that people didn't know about, including Voyager and including Silvergate. But if you really believe that this market's going to go a lot higher, because I could say Voyager only has a $3 billion market cap. Silvergate only has a $3.8 billion market cap. The Binance token has a $7 billion market cap. Again, it's not an equity stake, but I mean, those guys are absolutely amazing there. Their technology, Binance Cloud, those guys are light. That's the largest exchange in the world. They're much bigger. I think they have 250 trades, pairs that trade on their site compared to Coinbase. I think it's probably 60-ish, I think, maybe a little more. Around those numbers, you crypto maniacs don't send me an email and say, Frank, you know the numbers. It's around those numbers. But you can see how big Binance is, the biggest exchange in the world. But BNB has been a way that people are saying we could play this. But when you look at a Voyager at a $3 billion market cap, Silvergate $3.8 billion, I mean, compared to Coinbase, whatever comes out, $75 billion plus, it's a better way to play it. And that's how you have to look at it. I know the excitement's around Coinbase. I know it's a good company. I know they reported good numbers. But if you need to buy this stock because you think Bitcoin's going to 100,000 or going much higher, because if it's not, this stock's going to come down. It's going to come down. I mean, that's why those numbers are so great. And maybe they continue to report those numbers if we stay the same. But if we see a 30, 40% decline, which we could see in crypto, I'm not predicting that. But, and hopefully this doesn't mark a top because it checks every single box of why this should be a top. So hopefully it doesn't, mark a top. Just like every industry ETF that comes out usually comes out at the top of the market because they're able to sell it. And if you go back and look at that ETF, you'll see it down for like 6 months or a year and then go all the way back up. They always launch them at the wrong times, which is the right time for them in terms of making money because everyone's excited about it. You're not going to launch something that no one's excited about. I mean, nobody cares about crypto when it crashed to 4,000. There's no way you're raising money. But that's how I would play it. Also, very important you understand this, guys. The security token market is here. It's finally here. You just had a company named Exodus who raised $75 million through a Reg A offering. I'm pretty sure they got the whole $75 million. They're like 80% done within a few hours. The largest security token raise in history. And when you look at Coinbase and what they've been doing over the past 4 months and who they've been talking to, I mean, they're 100% focused on tokenized assets. And they said it publicly. They've contacted so many contacts that I know within this industry. They know that that's the growth in their platform, tokenized assets, which is security tokens. Again, I've been talking about this like crazy the past few months leading up to today's IPO, and that's really exciting stuff. I mean, especially for us, right? Our CEO token. Security token where investors get equity in our company, Curzio Research, just like a stock. We also pay a dividend, which amounted to 1.7% annually. Every single quarter we paid it. And we're also in the process of getting our financials audited, which are going to be done at the end of this month, which I think we will be the only token with audited financials, especially with an equity stake and pay a dividend in the world. And what does that do? It provides transparency. It's a pain in the ass to get your financials audited. Let me tell you something. Holy cow. Holy cow. I mean, thousands of documents, right? Going back, 4 years since we started the company, but to get audited for the first time, holy cow. But that's what we want. And we're paying for it, and it's expensive. But what is that going to provide? Transparency. And that's what you need in this industry. That's how security tokens are going to go to the next level, by providing equity stakes. And you're going to see lots of companies be in a great position, just like us, to raise money, to build their company, to build out their, be able to, for investors to trade your stock a year later instead of a private company where the average liquidity period is 7 to 10 years, whether it's an IPO or they get taken out, or you do a Reg A offering, you could trade even quicker. But here's a way for smaller companies to raise money to bypass the fees, the system, and everything. This is the future. It's here, and it's going to get huge, especially now that Coinbase is out there. And our goal is to trade on Coinbase or trade on the exchanges that are going to come out over the next 6 to 12 months. And a lot of them, including alternative trading platforms, are being launched as we speak. But the fact that Coinbase, the IPO in the US, this is great, great news for the entire industry. I hope they do well. I highlighted the risks. I highlighted why. I don't know if I buy Coinbase up here. And if you want to buy it, that's fine. Maybe it goes a lot higher. I hope it does. I hope they do well. But if you really believe crypto is going to go higher, the other plays have much smaller market caps, so you see bigger gains. And I could tell you, I know you're looking at stocks that were up 20x and 30x. I've missed my biggest winners because I was going to buy it and went up 15%. I'm like, shit. And 2 weeks later, it's up 20%. Then it's up 50%. I'm like, shit. And next thing you know, it went from 10 to 20. I'm like, I can't believe I missed it. And I'll look at it a year later and it's like 60. Buy like a small position in it. At least you own it. And if it comes down because you bought it too high, you could add to your position and lower your cost basis. That's how you do it. Scale into these things. You don't know if crypto is going to be 64. There's so much hype around crypto. Bitcoin, 64,000. Maybe it goes a lot lower. I don't know. It could. Maybe it goes back down to 50. And if you own cryptos and Coinbase, you're going to see a lot of those assets come down in value and you can add to it. Because you're going to see ups and downs. It's not going to be straight up like it's been, guys. It's not. It's not going to go from 22,000 to 65,000 in 4 months and then go to 100,000. Maybe it does, but you're going to see ebbs and flows. You do that with every stock, every market. It's not a complete bull market no matter what. It's not. And things are pretty insane right now. So congrats to Coinbase. I gave you lots of ways to play it. Hopefully it's not too much. This isn't a crypto podcast, even though our company is based on, we launched our CEO token. That's how much I believe in this industry 2 years ago. It's trading on a merge exchange. I'm excited about. But that is a big topic, and I love to see you guys make money, especially when you're taking on risk. You want to be able to maximize those returns. And in crypto, what's going on in new names and new innovation and different trends you're seeing, it's NFTs now. It's going to be security tokens next. It's going to continue to evolve just like the internet evolved in so many different things. You look at social media, it's only 10 years old, 12 years old. Now you look at quantum computing, 5G as a next leg. I mean, we keep innovating within the internet of how many industries it's disrupting. The same thing's going to happen to blockchain, same thing's going to happen to crypto because it is definitely here. Now, today's interview, amazing guest. He's a first-time guest. And by the way, today's interview, Wall Street Unplugged, being sponsored by blockchain.com, one of the most trusted cryptocurrency platforms in the world, over 70 million wallets and over $800 billion in transactions since 2011. It's an awesome company, guys. Not only can you trade your favorite cryptos on blockchain.com, but you could earn up to 13% interest annually in your crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or stablecoins like USD Tether. So for more information, start your account, visit blockchain.com. That's blockchain.com. Again, a company, I'm only going to be advertising companies on here that I trust. They're paying us a lot of money to do that, our advertisers, which is awesome, which I like, because what does that do? No, it doesn't go right into my pocket. It allows me to build this podcast, to market it even more, to where we're getting guests like the one that's coming up right now. His name is Dan Held. If you're not in crypto, you probably haven't heard of him. But in 2013, Dan was part of the original crypto meetup in San Francisco, where the founders of Kraken, Coinbase, and Litecoin discussed how Bitcoin was going to revolutionize the world. Not bad. That's a pretty cool meeting to be at. In fact, Dan invested in Bitcoin at $10, and he still owns it. After selling his company to Kraken, one of the largest crypto exchanges next to Coinbase and Binance, he's now the growth lead at Kraken, so responsible for growing that amazing exchange. Now, I look at Dan, if I was him, I'd be the most arrogant guy in the world, saying, I told you so, and look how great I am, and pounding my chest, right, and being great. No, he's not an arrogant crypto guy. He's not a guy that's going to tell you, I told you so. Instead, he's been educating hundreds of thousands of people on Bitcoin for close to 9 years, which is, that makes him like a dinosaur. It's like the equivalent of investing alongside Warren Buffett when he first started Berkshire Hathaway 50 plus years ago, right? Being 9 years into the crypto market, that's could be considered being a 30-year vet in the stock market. So the timing of this interview cannot be more perfect with the Coinbase IPO. And Dan's going to break that IPO down, what it means for the entire industry, including his company, Kraken, where he thinks Bitcoin, right? So he likes Kraken, but he's also going to give you the forecast on Bitcoin. I'm almost stumbling here because the forecast he gives is pretty insane. I mean, forget 100,000, forget 300,000. And who am I to say no way, considering here's a guy that bought at $10 and he's been dead right thus far. In fact, he's going to show you the easiest way to educate yourself on Bitcoin and why it's not too late to do so. So I love this guy. Great interview. Let's get to it now. Bitcoin legend, pioneer, Dan Held. Dan Held, thanks so much for joining us on Wall Street Unplugged.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so let's start with Kraken, right? Because this is, I read on your site that you're part of the original 2013 crypto meetup group. I'm quoting you here in San Francisco, which is comprised of the founders Kraken, Coinbase, Litecoin, and others, 2013. I guess in your wildest dreams, do you think Bitcoin, the crypto market, Kraken will be where they are today, or how big this market has grown?
It was certainly a wild dream. Let's put it that way. I didn't, back in that day, it was a small group of us. I mean, tiny. There wasn't much money in the space. There hadn't been many investments. There certainly wasn't any sort of validation by the mainstream world. We were considered to be kind of lunatics. We were like a small group of weirdos that believed in this Bitcoin thing. So yeah, I mean, my hypothesis was that Bitcoin would be widely regarded as gold 2.0 someday, and it has. And I think it took immense fortitude to stick with it all these years, because you got your friends, family, coworkers, lovers telling you that you're wrong. It's a lot to go through. But yeah, I am incredibly impressed with how far Bitcoin's come. Bitcoin has survived so much conflict and turmoil, including like a civil war. I'm not sure if your audience knows about that, but that's kind of a little known fact, I think, in the mainstream world, that Bitcoin even survived a civil war within its own ranks. So Bitcoin, the fact that it survived this long, I think, is just testament to how decentralized and resilient it is.
Now, you have a lot of experience here where your former company, Interchange, that's what you sold to Kraken. And prior to that, you had Uber, created early crypto products like a Change Tip acquired by Airbnb, Zero Block acquired by blockchain.com. So I would imagine that during all these projects, which just seemed like every one of them was successful, that people have told you were crazy along the line, right?
Yeah. And, look, certainly these aren't all exits where I'm making like $10 million or something. Some of these are more acqui-hire exits. But yeah, I mean, with every, I've got a tremendous respect for inventors and founders, where when you begin something, if you want to make a lot of money, you have to build something that no one else is thinking about, or like no one else believes will work. So inherently you are short everyone else. and so it takes a lot of just mental strength to persevere through that. Any invention, whether it be Uber, Bitcoin, the telephone, light bulbs, everyone at the time, their immediate response is, I'm afraid of this. I'm scared of this. I don't believe it's going to make change happen. One of my favorite Twitter accounts is called the Pessimist Archive. And the Pessimist Archive goes back to like 1880. And they go find newspaper clippings around different topics like the bicycle or the light bulb. And they write about how people were afraid of it at first, where they're like, the bicycle is going to distort our brains because we're going too fast. For women, it's going to hurt their posture, and it's going to make them deformed. Ridiculous ideas. I mean, the bicycle is such a ridiculous thing to criticize. But yeah, with any new technology, humans, again, we're not exactly like, we have evolved into we have come into civilization very, very recently in our evolutionary timeline. And when we encounter something new, we act like an animal would. We are scared of it, afraid of it. We're like, I don't trust this. I don't get it. We don't give it a rational, kind of cold, rational perspective when we first approach something. So Bitcoin, like any other new technology, had this, heavy skepticism in the beginning, but over the last 10 years, it's overcome a lot of that, especially in the last 6 months.
I was going to ask you, because you are a massive fan of Bitcoin, where a lot of people might say you're a fan of crypto. But from what I read, and I may be wrong on this, and sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it seems like there's a lot of tokens out there. I won't call them shit tokens, but just a lot of things that don't work. But you really love Bitcoin, and I guess you kind of answer that. But I'd love for you to go more into it, because people look at Bitcoin in so many different ways. I mean, they see it as a store of value, it's an alternative currency. Has your view changed on it from 2013 to today, where I would think that it's becoming an alternative currency where you could use it in more and more and more stuff? You see PayPal and everybody else coming up. I'm just wondering if any of that has changed, or is it still like, hey, this is a better alternative of keeping your money as a store of value than putting in a gold?
Yeah. So I like to think about, when a product or protocol solves a problem, ultimately every product or service or protocol solves a problem for its customers, which is us humans. When it does that, it is tackling something that we call a TAM, total addressable market. So how big is the problem that it's solving? Store of value or storing value is the largest TAM of any product, service, or protocol in the world. So let's give it some scope here. Gold is worth $10 trillion.
Mhm.
Negatively yielding sovereign debt is around $18 trillion. And you've got, fiat cash and all the dollars in M1, M2, and all the fiat money in the system, and that's in the tens of trillions. And then you have real estate, which is in the hundreds of trillions. And if you look at New York, San Francisco, where I live, London, a lot of real estate is used as a store of value. There are a bunch of empty apartments and empty homes for the wealthy to park their money. Bitcoin competes with all of these, and also I should have thrown in offshore banking. Bitcoin competes with all of these as like a private Swiss bank account that you can access on your phone. This is incredibly powerful and changes the dynamic of governments and how they control money. So Bitcoin is tackling that. Now, other people thought Bitcoin might also be useful for these other things. But Bitcoin doesn't need to have any other utility other than being a store of value at this current stage in its evolution as a new money. New money doesn't come into existence very often, and this new money had to first go through the store of value era, the most lucrative, highest TAM era, before it can get into the one that we commonly refer to as a currency, the medium of exchange unit of account era. I go to the grocery store and there's dollar signs on that's the unit of account. There's dollar signs on my groceries. And the medium of exchange is the common everyday payment method that I use to pay for things. A lot of people think Bitcoin has failed because it's not used as an everyday payment method, but that comes much later after Bitcoin goes through the store of value era where people believe in it and store value in it. A kind of funny story with, or not story with this, but a kind of a funny analogy or kind of a word of wisdom is I live in the quintessential gold rush city of San Francisco. There's not one store in the entire city of San Francisco where you can pay for things in gold, but gold is still worth $10 trillion. It doesn't make gold worth any less. So store of value is, what Bitcoin is primarily useful for at the moment. Just because, if you can't use it to buy groceries or anything else, that's not a big deal. That comes much, much later, like a decade or two from now.
Now, I notice, again, for someone who's been in this industry for such a long time, but now you're seeing more institutional adoption, and you're seeing guys like Ray Dalio, Michael Saylor, who get tons of attention, who get the headlines. Because for me, in order for this to get as big, you had to see Wall Street kind of merge with crypto, and that wasn't that easy because I think that those two groups don't like each other very much. But yeah, I wanted to get more into that because it seems like you're seeing that integration, you're seeing Wall Street, seeing more adoption. But when I see people like Ray Dalio and Michael Saylor who are speaking at Texas A&M this week, talk about it, I think it's Bitcoin as an asset conference class. I think I saw that in your Twitter account. Those names are getting promoted, yet you have been one of the earliest adopters, one of the smartest guys in this industry, and you're actually speaking at Texas A&M as well, ahead of these guys, but they don't seem to mention you that much, but these guys are getting all the headlines. I mean, does that still bother you? Because, again, it's great to see those guys coming in, but they should be listening to you, right?
I mean, look, I'm well known in crypto, but I'm not well known outside of crypto. Versus these are legendary CEOs or legendary hedge fund managers. So no, I don't take it offensively. I'm pretty early in my career, so we'll see what happens over the next 5 to 10 years. But if I'm right and I stick around, I think there's a very good chance that my audience, right now I'm at 170,000 Twitter followers, and I'm getting 30,000 Twitter followers a month. So very good chance that in the future it's pretty weird to see my call turn out correct after 8 years. It's seeing all these institutions validate that I was right almost feels wrong because I'm like, for such a long time they were on the other side of the table telling me that I'm wrong, and now that they're coming over here I'm like, oh wow, it's actually happening. It's I wasn't crazy. I was right. And I mean, if I am right about Bitcoin fundamentally changes everything about money. It changes the relationship of governments controlling their money. And this undermines everything. It undermines their control over the population. It undermines control over taxes and control over spending. I don't think people really understand, at the deepest libertarian level, like what this means for humankind. I think Bitcoin is one of the greatest tools for freedom. It's like the separation of church and state. We need the separation of money and state. There's the U.S. the government formally didn't control money. In fact, a lot of the founding fathers were very against the idea of a central bank. So I view Bitcoin as kind of a check and balance to state power or government power.
No, that's great. I love the way you put that. So I want to transition here because I can keep going on Bitcoin. I really love the way you put state and money. But let's get into Kraken, right? Because right now it says you're the growth lead at Kraken. Kraken is a very large exchange. Why don't you give us some of the things at Kraken? Maybe if for people who aren't familiar with that platform, some of them are. We have our own crypto products here that we sell in financial newsletters. But talk about what the growth lead means and maybe a little bit about Kraken because it is exciting what you guys are building over there as well.
Yeah, great question. So I work at Kraken. Kraken is one of the oldest and largest crypto exchanges in the space. It's founded by Jesse Powell, really, really early OG. He got really involved early, like 2010, 2011. And, I think that Kraken, it's especially, I think, right now as Coinbase is about to IPO tomorrow, Coinbase is probably our number one competitor that we look to because we operate in a lot of the same markets in the US and Europe. Those are our two biggest markets. And in the US, Coinbase is currently number one. And in Europe, we're typically number one. And that I mean that in terms of like US dollar to crypto volume. So dollar to Bitcoin, dollar to Ethereum, and same with Ethereum to dollars. And then if we look at Europe, it's euro to Bitcoin, euro to Ethereum. And so when we look at those trading pairs, that's how we kind of evaluate competitive performance. So we are very excited for I think in tech, there's a lot of even a lot of camaraderie, even with competitor companies. We all want to win, but a rising tide raises all ships. And I think Coinbase's IPO tomorrow is definitely going to be a great shining light onto the space of like, hey, this is a real asset class. These companies are making real money, and these are legitimate companies making real money versus crypto before was kind of considered a little bit kind of like a little bit niche. Now, with for Kraken, we're looking at this and we're looking at our user numbers, and crypto just reached a $2 trillion market cap. Like this is not something to be ignored, and I think that's really, really cool. And when we look at Q1 2021, most of our metrics beat all of 2020 in one quarter.
Yep.
This is the sort of growth that crypto companies experience in these bull runs. And, I just think it's so exciting to see us, really, really start to dig in there. I'm trying to figure out what sort of exact metrics, that I can say, but yeah, let's see.
I think that's good enough. I think a lot of people are trading on your site that listen to this, but yeah, but for just one of the largest exchanges, because obviously I wanted to compare it to the Coinbase IPO. Which is going to be valued at 100 billion. And we're doing this Tuesday. This is going to be published on Wednesday. But and that's what I want to talk about. How it has to be great for you guys. I know you saw it is a competitor, but yet it's just such a small industry still compared to how big it can get. I would think this is fantastic for you. You're seeing Binance, even though that token's not tied, the BNB token's not tied to at an equity stake, but you're seeing that thing go up tremendously, especially over the past few weeks and past few months actually. But I would think that has to be great for great companies like yourself, because like you said, it's the oldest exchange, but you guys are also one of the biggest in the world.
Totally. Yeah. We, all of these trading volumes are public information. So you can go to cryptowatch.com or CryptoWatch. It's a Kraken product where we display real-time market data and volumes for all the exchanges and assets in the space. So if you go on there, you can filter by exchanges by volume, and yeah, you can check out our volume and Kraken's Coinbase's volume and Binance and all the other all the other exchanges in the space. And these numbers are huge. These numbers are very, very large. So yeah, I think that it's just so exciting to see these institutions come in, give validation to Bitcoin, which therefore I think brings in more retail. And a lot of Bitcoiners don't understand that a lot of retail is waiting in the wings until institutions tell them that this is legitimate. And so this will, I think, ultimately spur a reflexive loop, in this bull run where we could see things get really, really hot. And I think for Kraken, it just, as a company, it's a thrilling spot to be in. I was growth at Uber, so working at Uber headquarters on growth product and growth marketing, seeing us go from, tens of millions of customers to hundreds of millions. And, with Kraken, we're at a little bit earlier era, but it feels the same. That energy, that vibe, that we are hiring as fast as we can and getting great people in and seeing how fast we can move. This is all thrilling for me as the growth lead, as the head of growth at Kraken. it's something that I live for this moment.
It's great. Congratulations on that. And I guess let me ask you this. Where do you see the next leg of disruption? I feel like this is the internet where, social media is only around 10 years old, right? I mean, it's just, first it was AOL just getting online, but every single industry has been disrupted by the internet and continues to be with 5G, quantum computing, AI, it just continues. And I feel like it's the same thing we're going to see with blockchain and crypto. But, we had DeFi started, 2019, it's 2020, and, it's still exploding trend. NFTs exploding now. Is it security tokens? We launched our security token first ever called Curzio Equity Owners, first to give an equity stake, pay a dividend, trade in the foreign exchange available to retail investors. But do you see that market, or is there something else that you maybe see that could be the next disruption? Or again, that's always difficult to see, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what's tricky about crypto is that the ebb and flow of narratives or what's hot is really intense. There's kind of a core narrative of Bitcoin, Gold 2.0 store of value, and that drives a majority of the volume in the space. If you look at the trading volume of Bitcoin pairs and Ethereum pairs, those are huge. So, I think with DeFi, that's a pretty strong narrative. Same with NFTs. NFTs have kind of quickly come and go in terms of narrative path. That's par for the course for crypto. So yeah, I think DeFi in the space has gotten a lot of interest. My own personal feelings are that I'm really interested in Bitcoin and its promise for being Gold 2.0, but certainly others in this space I think are interested. Kraken itself is interested in the DeFi space and very much leaning into that.
And that was going to lead to my next question. You are fully engulfed in Bitcoin, and a lot of my good contacts love that, and because they see there's a lot of crap out there. But are there any other projects that interest you? And you kind of answered that, but I wasn't too sure if there's anything else, or if it's Ethereum, high gas fees people talk about, but that's an all-time high. But is there anything out there outside of Bitcoin that you like? And if you say no, that's perfectly fine, because I know you are 100% pure Bitcoin guy.
Yeah, look, I mean, along my journey, I tried out a lot of other things. Like I did some mining of altcoins before, and I've traded other altcoins and thought about other altcoins, and even thought about creating an altcoin. I think most Bitcoiners you meet, folks that are just into Bitcoin, they didn't just land on like, I'm just going to do Bitcoin. They typically tried a lot of other things. They tried a lot of other things, and then they're like, you know what? There's reasons why Bitcoin is really good at what it does. Blockchain technology was built to first build Bitcoin, and blockchain technology is not a general purpose tool. It can't be you can't just take out this or that. If you take out one element, you sort of disrupt the entirety of how it works. And that's where, with Bitcoin solves the problem of trust with money very, very elegantly. And when you try to repurpose it for other things, it's a really tricky operation because the design surface area is very narrow. Um, I'm always a fan of new innovative ideas. So I encourage, I'm very excited to see people try different things. They're free to. But for me and what I like, for me, I've been around 8 years in crypto. I've seen 10,000 cryptocurrencies come and go.
Makes you a dinosaur.
Yeah, I've seen 10,000 come and go. And so for me, even if I wasn't really into, like, let's say I was agnostic and I didn't really like Bitcoin for its future of, I think solving the problem of trust with governments, which I think is essential for human freedom. Let's say I didn't care about that and I was just like a trader. Bitcoin's return per unit of risk is still the most phenomenal asset in the space. Can you pick another altcoin that will outperform Bitcoin? Certainly possible, but many don't. And Bitcoin, the whole world is waking up to Bitcoin's value and why Bitcoin is Gold 2.0. And I think it would be kind of crazy to miss out on that moment to, chase potentially higher gains somewhere else. So again, fully supportive of people trading what they want and people creating what they want and trying out new things. Just on a personal level, like that's how I think about it from a purely like economic perspective of the return per unit of risk of Bitcoin is the best in the space. And, also I've got a very emotional component where I do believe Bitcoin is our greatest chance at freedom. And I think that Bitcoin starts a movement where if we remove power of money from states, then that changes everything else. All the other things start to flow down where we can start to challenge every other part of control over our lives. So for me, it's a very emotional sort of, I guess you could say, like freedom patriotic, like a freedom fighter sort of perspective.
So that leads to this question, which is going to be the easiest, which means it's going to be the hardest. So do you still own most of your Bitcoin? Have you taken profits in it? And how big do you think this could get? Do you see Bitcoin going much, much higher from here? Or do you say, 100,000 is definitely in reach? Or is it, again, it's always hard to discuss prices, but I'm just curious to see if, how bullish you are, even though, your thesis has been playing out perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, look, no one's a perfect hodler in the beginning. I traded back and forth, but I haven't really disposed of any Bitcoin in a long, long time. My original investment thesis was that Bitcoin is gold 2.0. At a 1.1 trillion market cap, Bitcoin is just now barely touching upon that premise. Gold is worth 10 trillion,
10 trillion.
and that's just one store of value asset. So, and Bitcoin has far superior traits as a money or store of value asset. For example, like no one can audit the supply of gold. With my home computer, I can audit the entire supply of Bitcoin instantaneously. That sort of assurance and transparency makes Bitcoin, I think, incredibly more valuable than gold. So, do I think Bitcoin has a lot more upside? Absolutely. We are just now seeing institutions dip their toe in. Ownership of Bitcoin in the United States is like 5 to 10%. It's still very small. With COVID, money printer went burr at a rate that I don't think anyone expected. Bitcoin is an antidote to poor central banking policy, especially money printing, unfettered money printing. So Bitcoin has never been in a better moment to own it. This is the moment that you want protection from inflation. This is a moment where, as institutions buy it and as it's being legitimized, more people develop trust in it. Therefore, they park more value in it, and then the price goes higher. So I'm hodling. I don't think things have even gotten exciting yet. Bitcoin's at $63,000 a Bitcoin at this moment. I've been hodling since it was $10 a Bitcoin, and
That's great.
and
That's amazing.
I don't even think things have gotten crazy. I mean, in this cycle, I would fully expect us to go from anywhere between $200,000 a Bitcoin to $1 million a Bitcoin. It depends on how intense it is, but certainly this time is different. This time is very different than the other cycles, which were during a macro bull run. The markets were relatively good when Bitcoin was nothing was breaking. No one was scared when Bitcoin was growing from 2000, post 2008 through to 2020, and then COVID hit, and all of a sudden people go, wait a second, this Bitcoin thing kind of makes sense. In these previous market cycles, it was just all retail speculating on Bitcoin, and the infrastructure was shaky, and there weren't even like options, like there's just spot trading. There's spot and futures trading, and options trading just became popular like a year ago. So Bitcoin's very early in its adoption and very early in its institutionalization. So I couldn't be more bullish on Bitcoin, but I am the Bitcoin bull. So I don't think that's too big of a surprise there.
No big surprise there. And you've been right all along. So congrats on that, and definitely, worth it for you being in so early. But let's transition here, because you have a great newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter called the Dan Held Report, where it seems it's more about educating the masses about Bitcoin, its future potential. Could you talk a little bit about that? And if somebody wants to sign up for it, because I think you have, 170,000 people there, at least followers on your Twitter. But how can people find it? How could they sign up? And maybe talk a little bit about that newsletter.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing it up. The Held Report is a weekly newsletter that I put out to paid subscribers. I walk through different topics in Bitcoin. For example, this last week I covered crypto IPOs. So what happened? What's happening with the Coinbase IPO? What does that mean for the rest of crypto companies? And what does that mean for Bitcoin? So that's an example of a topic that I'd write about. Or can governments kill Bitcoin? I wrote an article about how could a government kill Bitcoin and how can Bitcoin defend against that? And so yeah, it's essentially a weekly report where if you want to know the intimate details of how Bitcoin works and have it explained simply to you, this is the newsletter for you. I've been in the space 8 years, as Frank mentioned before, worked at 5 crypto companies, sold 2. I've seen a lot come and go, and so this is sort of my place to give you my intimate thoughts, and I'm pretty forward with how I feel. So I give you kind of a very forward opinion about how I feel about different topics in Bitcoin.
And how could they find that? Is it a website or?
Yeah, check it. Just Google Dan Held or the Held Report, and it'll be the #1 search result. And then if you want more of my kind of quick hit thoughts, like if the market starts moving fast, I'm not here to give you signals on pricing. I'm a hodler. I bought Bitcoin and I've held. I don't day trade it. I just hodl it. So I'd recommend following other folks for some of the day-to-day price action. But if you want to, Twitter is where I'm really, really active. If you tweet at me, I might reply. And so I'm Dan Held on Twitter. So it's at Dan Held.
No, that's great stuff. Well, Dan, listen, I want to thank you for coming on with the Coinbase IPO tomorrow, and this is going to be broadcasted tomorrow. It's just the timing is great to give us a lot of details on that, and the entire industry, right? Everyone's trying to get more and more familiar with it. Again, you've been in it for 8 years and benefited tremendously, but I know how busy you are. I appreciate the time, and hopefully you join us again soon.
Thanks, Frank. And I just want to encourage everyone, spend some time thinking about Bitcoin. If you're skeptical now, just spend a few minutes to read about it a little bit more. You're not going to get it the first time, but give it some time. You owe it to yourself to know more about it. You owe it to yourself to at least learn it. If you learn about it and you still don't like it, that's great. But take the time to learn a little bit more, because this will be one of the greatest revolutions in history.
Yeah, and Dan, that makes a lot of sense, because you're seeing even the Ray Dalios and a lot of hedge fund managers who really hated it probably about 3-4 years ago, even longer, are starting to adopt it, right? I think they're starting to get it a little bit more, and they admitted that. So that's great advice. And again, thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully you join us again soon, man.
Thanks, Frank. Cheers.
So amazing stuff from Dan. And yes, you have Ray Dalio, Michael Saylor, talk about Bitcoin at Texas A&M. Really big names. I just find it funny that the most important speaker by a mile at that conference, in terms of really learning about Bitcoin and its future, is Dan. But Ray Dalio is going to draw a lot of attention. Michael Saylor draws a lot. And, Michael Saylor, rightly so. Ray Dalio being at this conference is kind of interesting. He said, yeah, we're going to get in it a little bit or whatever, but he's speaking about it. That's great. But I'm thankful he came on. The timing was absolutely perfect with Coinbase IPO. So just really happy about that. Really, really great guy too. Talking to him off air, without the interview before and after. Just really great, down-to-earth guy. Pretty amazing, buying Bitcoin at 10, and just, again, humble, really cool. And he is just a Bitcoin guy. He doesn't like a lot of the crap coins out there. He doesn't even go near them. He's just like, I'm Bitcoin and that's it. And just the fact that he, instead of saying, pounding your chest, buying all these things and showing you how great you are and telling everyone, he's trying to educate the world on it. That's pretty freaking cool when you think about it. I mean, I see the other side of that on Wall Street all the time. So, just people make money and change and come assholes and think who the hell they are. This guy just seems like the same guy who bought Bitcoin at 10 is the same guy that you talk to now. No, and I really like that. I really respect that. But this podcast is about you, not about me. Let me know what you thought. Frank@CurzioResearch.com is Frank@CurzioResearch.com. Now, let's bring in the one and only Daniel Creech, Senior Research Analyst, Curzio Research.
What's going on, Frank?
Nice to have you back, man. How you doing?
Wonderful. It's great to be back. I missed it terribly. So this is a new part. Wednesdays have always been a great time for me during the week, and this podcast brings it out. So it's great to be back.
No, that's awesome. And we usually talk about the big topics. I want to get your thoughts, of course. Right now it's Coinbase, and I broke it down completely as much as I can for you guys in the intro. But I know you have a lot to say about it as well, because this is an IPO that we're looking at. It's going to be opening probably around a $75 billion, $80 billion valuation. It could be much higher by the end of the day. Again, we're doing this midday, and you're going to be listening to this later on. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, the luck I talked about in my opening is just, the market just boomed in the past 4 months. The timing couldn't be perfect in terms of everything, when, just demand and just everyone is freaking interested in this thing. It's everywhere in every TV station, especially financial media, but I guess really good stuff by these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it always pays to be a little bit lucky, but I couldn't be more excited about this because it's just a neat story. I mean, this thing has been years in the making. Just like with your interview with Dan, he's seen his net worth go up and down 80%, skyrocket, drop 80% several times, especially if he's hold from $10. I can't even imagine. But seeing them build the infrastructure out, get huge names on the back end, help over-the-counter trades with corporations, from MicroStrategy to Tesla, I think it's amazing. I hate to be so bullish on this, because it just, you're kind of setting yourself up and you're going with the tide, because, the majority of opinion is more bullish than bearish on this, of course. I saw it was going to come out, the listing price was going to be around $250, but as of now, it's still not trading, but the first price is up near $350.
It's now $360.
$360,
yeah,
okay.
This live, yeah.
The goofy thing there is that you talked about Goldman Sachs' amazing earnings, right?
Sachs numbers, yeah.
You hit that in the beginning.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
Goldman Sachs is $117 billion-ish market cap as of today, up 5%. If Coinbase comes out with a higher market cap than that, you can point to silliness there. But hell, welcome to reality. I mean, we live in the craziest world financially right now. in the history of financial record. But I think it's the only game in town. I think it's an amazing opportunity for a number of reasons. I look at it as a Swiss Army knife to compare to Bitcoin or exposure to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And I think it's an amazing story and good for all the, how many millionaires and billionaires you think are being made through this?
It's incredible, but I mean, tons, right? And they've been made already even before this. I mean, involving Coinbase. This is a $25 billion company 4 months ago. I mean, and deservingly so. We see SPACs like, inflate valuations by 3x, 4x in 2 weeks just for no reason at all. I mean, these guys' numbers exploded. I mean, I covered them earlier, which is pretty cool. But I have to say, Daniel, everything that I know about investing for 25 years tells me that with this thing coming out and everything being absolutely perfect, market, everything surging, how much it surged, it just feels like, a top.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a top, but just, I'm watching this too. Bitcoin hit 64,000. It's now to 62.5. And this is in the past hour and a half. And just so much excitement. I feel like I'm driving home on Friday the 13th. And a black cat runs in front of my car, and then I walk under a ladder in my house, and a mirror falls and breaks on the floor all on the same day. That's how I would describe this Coinbase and people getting into crypto. I mean, I've never, I talked about earlier, and I don't know, Facebook came out at 50 IPO, and then it went to 39, 38, whatever it did, before I finally figured out a way to monetize, and we all know where it is now. Good for them. But, that's a company that don't come out more excitement. And Google as well, if we go back, 20 years, whatever, nobody they lowered their price from 108 to 85. So when I look at this company and the excitement and everything checking off all the boxes, I don't know if you feel that way. And if we do, we might see a pullback, which is normal for any market. I mean, this is something that has gone straight up incredibly over the past 4 months. Yeah, and
you make a great point, because will we look back in a little bit or 6-8 months and say, hey, this was the ringing of the bell? Or is this just another buy the rumor, sell the news type, and then reload for a higher bull market? Again, so what do you get when you buy Coinbase? You get the only exchange on crypto that's publicly traded right now. In the I saw on Dan's posting from your interview earlier, Kraken is looking to go public, and why wouldn't you at this timing to take advantage of that? Mm-hmm. But right now, it's basically your Uber without your Lyft. And Uber's trading at all-time highs. Lyft, I don't believe, has reached its all-time IPO price yet. It's still lower than that, but it's the only game in town. So you get exposure to cryptocurrencies, which is going to be volatile. Did you see in its S1 filing, this year's revenue is amazing. Wasn't it 300 and some million in profit versus a loss last year? So that shows you the volatility there.
Yeah, I mean, operating profit, I think, was $1 billion for operating profit, but it was $1.8 billion in sales. Again, that's for the quarter.
Yeah. So you get exposure to the only crypto exchange in town. These are very profitable. You get everything in the future that's coming. So what will blockchain be used? What other financial services will they do? You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of a couple weeks ago when you had Zach Prince on. Mm-hmm. Great interview. And I remember being a little bit surprised because it reminded me of the Netflix thing. And Netflix was completely right. When their CEO kept saying, we love competition. Even I was like, BS. There's no way you love competition. He turned out to be right. Netflix isn't getting hammered by anybody getting into their space. They're all competing with Netflix. Zach Prince made a great point saying, hey, we're going to get into traditional finance eventually, just like traditional finance is getting into crypto. That's okay. That's an evolution. That's a maturity of the market. That's exciting. With Coinbase, you also get exposure to Bitcoin. They hold Bitcoin, a couple $100 million on their balance sheet. Why wouldn't they increase that exposure, and why don't they deserve a premium like everybody else does? Tesla, MicroStrategy, Square, PayPal, et cetera. You also get some of the biggest and best investors backing you and behind you. So what can Coinbase do? They're going to invest in everything that they see coming down the pipe. Again, I am nervous. I would love to see a little bit of a pullback to give you an opportunity to buy in. But, I would buy a little bit of this right now and then just be along for the ride.
Yeah.
Gosh, why don't you stop me? I sound like a permabull.
Yeah, I could keep providing those superstitions. I'm not superstitious at all, by the way. But yeah, I think I provided. I can keep going. Buying Tesla closes 666. Open an umbrella indoors. I can keep going with you.
Oh gosh,
I love when people are superstitious about everything, especially when it comes to sports. I always superstitious about everything. But
real quick, were you ever that way in sports? Did you wear the same socks or anything?
No, but okay. I know a lot of people I played with did.
Me too. I never did, but yeah. Anyway, that's funny. I like those.
It's pretty big when it comes. Yeah. So, I did provide a better way to play Coinbase, which is, Silver Lake Capital, Voyage Digital, BNB token, again, names that we already have. But from a risk reward perspective, if we truly believe Bitcoin's going that high, these are much, much smaller market caps and much more growth potential. And you can't really look at how much they've gone up in the past. Just saying, if you truly believe that Bitcoin's going higher, and if you think it's going to 1 million, that was awesome. And it's just, who am I to say the guy's crazy? Because he's been right all along. It's kind of like Kathy Wood. She's been right all along. And people say, Tesla, like we talked about that, we debated the Tesla thing. But for me, look, when you have that credibility, you get the benefit of the doubt. And this person has been really, really right. And I like the fact he's not arrogant about it. But I want to bring something up to you, which is very interesting. He owns Bitcoin at 10. And for me, I got the impression that he hasn't sold it. I cannot tell you how many people I talk to who own a ton of Bitcoin that are not selling at all. They're not selling. They just won't sell. They won't take profits in it. I mean, this is like an evolution. This is something that you normally don't. Usually, you have people getting in, they're going to sell it. Warren Buffett, long-term, hold things for 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, nobody does that today. Everything is like, what's the quarter? What's going to happen next 2 weeks? Oh my God, people go crazy. You always need something to talk about in the media. So many people I know own a lot. I'm talking about owning more than 5 million plus, up to probably 50 million plus, and maybe a little more than that with some people that I know, and even people that we've interviewed. None of these guys are selling. Now, you look at GameStop, right? And who was that guy who had the calls on GameStop, right? Whatever it was.
Yeah, Deep Value or Kitty something,
he didn't sell them. He never sold them. And until, they expired, he made a fortune on them. Again, wherever GameStop is today, who knows? It could be 150 to 300, wherever. But even that group, too, I mean, they're like, no, it's more of proving a point. There's more emotion behind investing in Bitcoin and cryptos than I've ever seen. Now, you have your traders and everything, but these people are like gold bugs, where they're going to be bullish on it no matter what, and that's okay. You've been right, but I don't know if you've seen the same thing, but I'm seeing that from almost every person I interviewed that owned very, very early, still owns it, even up here. Like, you would be, wow, just take a little bit off, or, some of it, no. They're like, nope, I'm never going to sell this thing, which is different, right? Which is definitely different.
Yeah, the fun thing for me is that there's nothing new under the sun. So emotionally, you're going to have the same people. I love your reference on gold bugs, because why wouldn't you have the same type of people with Bitcoin or stocks or real estate? I mean, some people are millionaires in real estate and would tell you the entire stock market's a scam and for suckers only, and they don't need it. And who's to tell them that they're wrong if they're very successful over here doing real estate? You don't need stocks. You don't need real estate. You don't need one or the other to become wealthy. I think that's awesome from a macro perspective. So it doesn't shock me that you have those people that are, hey, Bitcoin is the new gold. Gold is worthless. Paper money's worthless. Keep everything in Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. The interesting thing about not selling is because I don't know, and I'm not speaking for these people. I don't know why they originally bought it. But from the interview with Dan, the thesis has not changed. So the old cliche, now, it's easy to say that when Bitcoin is near an all-time high. If Bitcoin drops to 15,000 or 5,000 again, you're going to feel like an idiot, because you watch these paper assets inflate and now deflate. That's just part of investing in emotions. But if the thesis doesn't change, Frank, why would you sell? So if you really believe that this is going to be a currency or a store of value, or it's going to separate the power between governments and money, which, hey, I am your biggest fan on that. That ain't happening. All right, let's get that out of the way right now. I hope it does, but that ain't going to happen in our lifetime. So you got to give him credit. If that thesis doesn't change, why would you sell? I find it hard. He's got to have taken some off the table, don't you think? I mean, anybody that's got
I would think. I mean, you have to take some off the table, but I could imagine
But I know he has the majority, no doubt.
The majority of it, but for even up here, when you see this thing, and plus you been through the market that went to 19 to 3,000.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Absolutely.
When 3,000, 19,000 came down, I would think, hey, at 15,000, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell a little bit this time.
And on top of that, Binance, you mentioned them, CZ, the co-founder and CEO of Binance. I believe I just read this week that he keeps 90. I don't want to exaggerate, but it's like 80 to 90% of his net worth in crypto. I don't know if that's all BNB. I'm sure that's spread around to different coins, but
brilliant and rich.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's amazing. It's easy to say up here, but hey, if your thesis doesn't change, personally, throw out any number you want. If people aren't selling, how does it not go to six figures? You know, high numbers get a lot easier to reach if you have nobody willing to sell.
And not just not willing to sell, but you see more and more companies, institutions. I mean, PayPal was a huge announcement. We have 26 million, merchants that, are going to be able to pay. I mean, this is becoming like a currency now. I mean, you could be able to use it to pay for different things.
Yeah.
We're far off from it to be, mainstream and go into a deli and buying a soda with it, whatever, or milk.
But here's a fun thing like Crypterium. Crypterium offers a Visa like debit credit card that you can use on regular purchases and get cash back in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Instead of getting credit card points, why not get crypto points?
Even BlockFi.
Yeah, and then you can transfer that over. I mean, heck, it all adds up. So it's just an it's just a great evolution of
Visa. So you talk about Visa, Square, PayPal. I mean, all these guys understand how big this market is, and that is the future. And we have a young generation that is all in on this. And now you're seeing institutions, start going all in on it. But Coinbase really opened up the door here. Hopefully, the U.S. plays catch up because they've been way. I mean, hopefully they just catch up because they've been way behind the curve on everything. It's been really crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, a lot of Coinbase. That is the biggest story within crypto, and I want to provide more ideas for you. But Daniel, I wanted to turn the page to very big news today, which hurt stocks in general, but they kind of came back a little bit. J&J, their vaccine, they saw how many people were there? There was 6 or 7 of them got blood clots, and out of 7 million, and they've removed it. They pulled it off the market for now, just to do more studies on it. And it's interesting because this is a trend that I follow all the time. And again, I'm putting it into stock perspective as well. But I'm going to tell you a little story here, which Daniel knows. I'm going to bring everyone in here. So I had COVID already with my family, which you all know. I broadcasted that when I had it, and did a podcast when I had it. And we were lucky. We got mild symptoms. It was awesome. I travel internationally, right? So I know that Europe, Canada, most places, they're going to require you to have a passport. They're going to freaking require you to have a vaccine passport. So I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll get the vaccine. And I had plans to get it on Friday. And I had COVID already, right? And I said, I'll get it, whatever. And this J&J thing really scared the hell out of me. And you could say, Frank, it's 7 people. It's 7 people or 7 million. You got a better chance of almost getting struck by lightning or whatever. But what I want to find out about this test before I do anything, Daniel, and this takes 15 minutes, guys, to figure it out. 15 minutes. The fact they're not reporting. By the way, they didn't pull it because of 7 people. It's a lot more than 7 people. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but you don't pull a drug at 7 people when you have 7 million. The reason why they pulled it is because AstraZeneca and J&J are both DNA based, right? Those are different from the Pfizer and Moderna. And they pulled AstraZeneca because it was killing people. It killed people, right? And again, that company was, to me, they're a shady company. I've warned you about them. Even the results that they publish, it just seemed like they were trying to get into a market very, very late and just doing it as quick as they can. So that's why they're like, holy cow, maybe we need to pull this because we saw what happened to AstraZeneca where J&J I don't think killed anybody yet. What I want to find out, which takes 15 minutes, and why don't we know this? I want to know if those 7 people had COVID first and recovered from COVID and then got the vaccine. Because that's important, because you have blood clots, and when you have antibodies already and you're injecting even more, that's when your system get really, really fucked up. I talked to a lot of doctors about it. It's definitely true. And there's no studies on it, right? Do you really need this if you got it? I don't know. We don't know. But for me, I'm like, well, I'm going to travel or whatever. But that makes me nervous that if I have lots of antibodies that I had already and now I'm going to get it, that's the reason why. I know the numbers. I know it's just 7 people and I get it. But we need more studies out there. And then, Daniel, we just saw, Trudeau, I feel bad. I feel bad for my people in Canada. I can't believe Trudeau runs that country. It's so amazing. The guy's the biggest freaking idiot I've ever seen. He just went on TV and he was like, basically telling everyone the vaccine doesn't work. The vaccine doesn't work, and look at Europe and why cases spreading so much, and they're still in lockdown. That's what we need to do. Lock down everything, keep it locked down. So yeah, at the end of the day, I might not be traveling to Canada for a very long time, especially if I don't get the vaccine and have that passport, because they'll probably arrest me on the spot. But yeah, that's how I felt about it. But I thought that was very big news today, because I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way I do, that after this came out and the people who got it, talking about tons of people who were infected by COVID, who are now okay. Should we get this vaccine or not? And I can't find any studies, doctors, or anything that are accurate. I don't care what side you're on. I know this is 100% politicized by both sides, but I'd like to know just, some studies and see, if I need to get this.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I dislike the pharmaceutical industry in general, because when we're talking about other stocks, Coinbase, whatever, The percentages, the data points, they're all, it's money. You know, people are losing money or an investment or whatever. Here, it's lives, and that just sucks. And you know, it's just the way it is, and it's a bummer. So let me ask you, Frank, is the government following the science on this? And what I mean by that is 6 out of 6.8 million, and the other lawsuit coming here is they're all women, which means
they're all women, yeah.
You know, this day and age, we don't. Genders is a big deal right now, okay,
yeah,
people?
Yeah,
Let's be careful. I'll get to that in a minute. But is your typical plan or rollout, do you always pull drugs if you have this percentage? And whatever 6 is on 6.8 million is not a big percentage.
No.
Again, we're dealing with people here. One death is awful. One is in critical condition. I'm not saying that's okay. My point is that there's a lot of memes yesterday on the internet about birth control. WebMD says, and one article on WebMD, I'm not saying it's gospel, but was pointing to you can have 0.3 to 0.91% chance of blood clots, but you have more of a chance of before or after pregnancy to have blood clots than you do on birth control, according to this one. Now, if that's the case, everybody went and ran with it and made some funny memes about how the vaccine is safer than the pill, birth control. Now, they're not going to pull that. So where does the science stop? And I'm with you. Is it just 6 people? Is it a lot more? I don't know. But the whole thing, it's already politicized. And you know that because you're already seeing across Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, you're already seeing headlines about how, hey, we don't want this to affect people that are waiting to get the vaccine, like you, Frank. We don't want you to get more skeptical because of this. Well, how in the hell are you not going to make people more skeptical if you're polling something on such a small percentages and people are going to start questioning? You know, to think that this would go out smoothly with the government running is silly, you know, from the first place. I'm not putting that on you. But the biggest thing here is why you're getting it, Frank. And that's scary because you're not going to be allowed to travel anymore. And this is something worth fighting for. So I have to tip my cap to the Biden administration because they came out. Did you know that they have vaccine digital passports, or they're going to do some passports in California and Orange County as a test?
Oh, no. And
they're doing it for peace of mind, which it's just a nice way of saying that it's complete BS and, you know, all this is irrelevant and we're just doing it for show. But thank goodness, because people are starting to push back. You actually have representatives, mostly Republicans, but Andy Biggs from Arizona introduced legislation to ban federal agencies from future issuance of any standardization document for COVID vaccines. Our guy here, DeSantis, is adamant about they're trying to pass laws to say you can't do this. And I hope they do, because explain to me, Frank, how you're not allowed to go to a different country or a different state, or why stop there, a certain store, or participate in anything if you don't have this vaccine. Yeah. So that's the really scary thing that everybody really needs to pay attention to. And I was glad to see the Biden administration, the press secretary, Jen Psaki, I might be butchering that, said that, hey, the government is not now nor will be supporting any system that requires Americans to carry a credential to prove their vaccination. Now, I don't have a lot of faith in that, but let's remember this, timestamp it, and let's see how this ages, Frank, because freedom is the only thing worth fighting for like that, and this is a scary politicized situation.
To me, I said this earlier, it takes 15 minutes to call all these people and just ask them and say, or just, you know, go to the doctors or whatever and say, for the J&J, the 7 women, and just ask them, hey, did you have the virus already? And I could tell you, if all of them had the virus, they're not going to report that. There's no way that they'll report that, because that means there's going to be millions, if not tens of millions of people that are not going to get the vaccine.
Right.
And they don't even care if it's different, where that's DNA based and you have, you know, the different vaccine, totally different immune response with, Moderna and Pfizer. But why don't we have this information? I mean, that's relevant to me. It's relevant to my family. When I talk about COVID, it's not being politicized. It's me trying to help you out and just share my information that I'm getting from unbiased sources with you. Which includes tons of doctors that listen to this, who most of them, I would say more than 90%, always say, just don't mention my name that I said this, and they'll give me information. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Is this true? And they're like, yeah, but this is really incredible, because we really need to find that out. But so for me, I cancel it. And again, it's 7 out of 7 million people. I say, like, crazy if you cancel it. But for me, when I look, I just want to see that. I want to see those studies. And the fact that they're not giving you that information, the fact that we're seeing so much of this science has been so freaking wrong, the 6 foot. I mean, this isn't science. This is just, hey, this makes sense. So let's do it and let's force it on you. And people are sick of it. I mean, how many people are attacking Texas right now? Texas, in terms of COVID cases, is in the bottom 10% of states, yet they removed their mask mandate. Well, why is that? Now we're seeing that you can't get COVID from surfaces. Do you know what that means? You can't get, so it's not, you know what that means? The tens of billions of dollars that are spent on everybody spraying and everything. I went to Disney. Every other ride, every other turn, they spray everything, the roller coaster, whatever. Every place, getting food, they spray the whole thing. When you're checking out at any other place, all that. Really? You're telling us now that you can't contract it? It doesn't live on surfaces or anything? So just tell us what it is. Like, be honest with us. Because I can tell you, the leader of the CDC right now, she's a complete freaking idiot. Oh, my God. I mean, it doesn't get more political than that. And she's just like, we should lock down again. And what are you, crazy? Like, these doctors are not economists. Like, they don't study, the effects. We have the studies out of what kids not going to school, how it's crushing them. I saw that firsthand with my daughter when I was studying for the test to get into bowls. I mean, there was shit that I thought she should know. She didn't, because you're taking off almost a full year. Yes, think about it, right? You're learning all these new technologies because you got to stay at home, all these new computer programs. You're not really paying attention. It's a complete distraction, and then I'm not even talking about people in general from staying home and the studies of depression and suicide. And it's crazy. We know this. So there's no perfect solution where, okay, nobody has COVID, everyone's going to be fine. And everybody's going to be happy on both sides, right? There's a give and take. But when you look at what lockdowns have done to this country and the impact it had on so many people, it's going to come out that it's going to be worse than the impact on COVID. And it is. It's going to be worse than the 500,000 people who unfortunately passed from this. But you're going to see this and how it impacts and how it impacted. And hopefully we get these studies out. I just want more transparency. But putting this in investment terms, guys, because I talk about COVID a lot, is J&J. I got to be honest with you, I love J&J. Like, right away, like, they always do the right thing. The right thing with the Tylenol thing, whatever that 20, 30 years ago. I mean, they always pull stuff right away. That's what they do. They're just supposed to do. I know it's FDA required. But J&J is just such an amazing company. It's probably a buy on this. I'm sure, they'll figure it out. But I'd like to just see the result. Could you let me know if those 6 women, we know the age group of them, right? We know, I think it's like 25 to 48, I think. In that range? Okay, we know the age group, but how come you just can't tell me? Oh, 3 of them did, 4 of them did. Now, do you notice how they're not why not tell us that? That's important, because then there's going to be doubt about the vaccine, and who knows? Hopefully everything's okay, and nobody's going to get blood clots or see, any impact from it. But to me, common sense, and even from the doctors I talk to, if you have the antibodies and you're injecting even more of that into your body, it's got to mess up your system, your immune system somehow. It's got to. It can't be a good thing for you. And is it worth it? Well, it's worth it if it works. But we don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get COVID again. I don't think so. This is showing, just like you're not going to get chickenpox again. A few people do. Yeah. But that's what the studies are. And for me, J&J, AstraZeneca, I do not like that company at all. You see, Moderna is probably a great buy on this, and Pfizer, they're going to pick up the difference. They have plenty of this, even though they probably don't make that much money on these vaccines from the government. But those stocks are being inflated, and those are plays on here now.
Hey, I have a solution to all this, Frank.
Okay, let me hear it.
Okay. So everybody that's if you're worried about getting the vaccine, if you're in my camp and you're not planning on getting the vaccine, and you're really not going to get the vaccine, especially when they tell you can't fly or go anywhere. If that's the case, we'll deal with that when we have to cross that bridge. What happened to freedom of choice, Frank? We have freedom of choice in all kinds of things. Hot topic like abortion. Nobody wants to argue about that freedom of choice. Today we have gender choice. So if you're in my camp and you're not wanting to get the vaccine, I have an easy solution, Frank. Guess what? I am going to identify as a vaccinated person. Therefore, I can go anywhere. So make all your rules, whatever. I'm going to say, no, I identify as a vaccinated person. I don't need any proof. I just got it. Yeah. We'll see how far that goes. Just like Delta getting on a plane without my ID, even though they're upset. And for you people out there that may be upset that I'm making fun hysterically of politics, you can't avoid politics. You can't invest without paying attention to politics. And look no further to the Georgia law and Delta and the MLB moving out for political reasons and all that kind of stuff. Delta, the same company that makes you require to show your ID to get on one of their airplanes, thinks it's bad to have an ID to vote. If that doesn't tell you how freaking stupid corporate America can get, nothing else will, and you can identify as whatever you'd like to as well. But that's why you have to take this with a smile and navigate this. as much as you can, because if you don't learn to laugh at it, you'll go nuts and it'll be worse than anything else. So
I wonder if I get on a flight, I'm going to show my license and they say that I need to show them the passport and I say no. And they say, well, you can't get on a flight. Can I say that that's racism?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Say anything you want.
I mean,
you get keyword there is identify. Just like if you get in a gunfight, you got to say I was fearing for my life. That's what they told me in business law class.
Yeah, it's
it's all about what you say,
it's just
Frank.
funny. I mean, it's just funny when you look at some things, yes, and some things no. But again, let's not get crazy. This is when we get the most emails. Dan, you got to start giving me email addresses so you don't come to me.
Daniel at CurzioResearch.com. Daniel at CurzioResearch.com.
Yeah,
name in town if you want. This ain't below, right?
That's Daniel at Curzio. I want to make sure. I can't wait. I'm going to read all those emails when they come in.
I like it.
Because they always come to me. Damn, right wing doesn't know. Anyway, it's kind of funny. But I want to go over one last thing here really quick. Is Goldman Sachs. Guys, if you didn't see those results, they were pretty insane. I just want to see, which I'm pulling up on my site right now, where Goldman Sachs is, which I'm expecting it to be down like it always is when they report great earnings. But then the stock pretty much goes, no, actually it's up to 340, which is great news for our Curzio Research Advisory subscribers who own this at 210, I think, 211. And this is easily going to 400. It should actually go to 500 based on these results. But, Daniel, I have the results here. And guys, I could share my screen with you here if you're watching on YouTube here. Again, a lot of you do listen to Wall Street Unplugged, but we do through iTunes and other sources, and even through our website. But, if YouTube, we're videotaping this. We have all the technology. It's really, really cool. So you get to see my ugly face and Daniel's pretty face. But I've shown a Goldman Sachs report, and this is from Evercore. And they actually say, it's titled, "That's not a typo."
Yeah. Well, you have to say something silly like that because
Q1,
I keep reading
so for Q1, them. I mean, if you thought Coinbase numbers are good, $18.60 earnings. The estimates were for around $950-ish.
Yeah.
Which is, so, you're looking at it, equity investments gains $3.1 billion, which is, that's trading revenue is up 47%. Investment banking up 73%. Revenues more than doubled. Expenses up, so they're marketing even more. But equities was up 68%. iBanking revenues up 73%. Asset management rose to $4.6 billion versus last year's quarter decline of $96 million. Just, across the board. I mean, there's not a thing that you could highlight that you could say, corporate lending declined a little bit. Total loan losses declined 5% year over year, lower corporate loans. But, other than that, this is a sick, crazy quarter, which, again, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, I get it. A lot of people hate them. They think they're the evil empire. I get it. I understand. But nobody knows how to make money better than these guys. And the key to these companies making money is two. It's volatility. Right? You look at volatility, and when the markets are volatile, that's when they make the most money, and liquidity. And we have more liquidity in the market than ever, with $10.5 trillion injected, another 2.3 coming probably for infrastructure. I know 10% is for infrastructure, but still, it's going to be injected to people somehow, and of course to the politicians. But these numbers are just, staggering, right? Yeah,
the revenue growth, the investment banking, and of course, the SPACs, they're going frenzy. They're probably going to slow down. What I really took away from this is the CEO, Dave, is it David, or why am I second guessing? I think it's David Solomon. I know it's Solomon. DJ. Anyway, both him and Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, who also put up amazing numbers. I don't know if you saw those, Frank, but JP Morgan knocked it out of the park as well. Both talked about how great and powerful the economic recovery is, why it's going to continue, and why consumer spending will continue, and they're positive on that. So while they don't expect the SPACs to continue at the rate they are, they still have a record backlog. I believe JP Morgan had a record backlog too. And backlog just means business in the pipeline that you're going to cash in on some point in the future, usually between 12 months and the next 12 months. Those are record highs. Goldman Sachs sees client activity extraordinarily high. Everybody's still bullish. What does that mean? That means that if you think in terms of the river analogy, all this money and stimulus being dumped into the river at the top is going to flow through the economy, and it's going to take some time. So this story is nowhere near over. Again, not to be blindly bullish, you're going to have separation. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan knocked out of the park. Morgan Stanley continues to be the worst bank on Wall Street. I mean, if you're hanging out with your buddies and you say, hey, where do you work? You do not want to say, well, Morgan Stanley right now, because you're going to get made fun of. And, they deserve it. They're being silly. They've got a lot of issues too. Goldman knows how to be the biggest crooks. I don't mean crook as financially crooked or jail crooked. I just mean playing the game better than anybody else. So the takeaway there is both of the biggest, most successful banks in what they do, the CEOs think the economy is going to continue hotter, and that means that we have a lot more opportunity in the bull market as investors.
Yeah, and one quick note here, because, breaking down the financials, and I never use return on equity as a measure to buy a stock in my life. I mean, it's just something that you see that's a good metric. But, that's for me, I've never bought or sold a stock based on this.
This isn't a typo either, what you're about to say, because this is hilarious.
Return on equity for the quarter was 31%. For 2020, it was 11%. It's just the numbers that listen, if you want things done, you're going to pay a high price, you're going to pay high fees, but you get it done, right? Because they're the best. They know how to make money and they service their clients. Just really, really great stuff. I'm glad we got into that stock early, but really, really cool. So Daniel, covered a lot of topics today. Really appreciate you coming back. Glad to have you back, buddy. And I'll see you next week, all right?
All right. See everybody next week. Take care. Cheers.
All right, guys. So listen, we talked a lot about crypto. I'm getting huge demand for our crypto intelligence newsletter, so I kept it open just a little bit longer at a 50% discount. I know I'm probably crazy for doing that since we have, I want to say 220x, or now it's 320x winners and 230x plus winners. Just so many different. I'm hoping that we get a pullback in this market, but I talked about Silver Lake Capital as being a great play, which is a stock you could buy, and I also talked about Voyage Digital. Guys, is another stock that's probably the Goldman Sachs in this industry, and it has gone up, but it's still a little bit below our buy-up-to price right now. It has gone up. We've been adding to it. We usually have a full position at 6%, and we added that full 6% now, and it's gone up considerably. But this is a name with a very small market cap that has partnered with Goldman Sachs, has partnered with Morgan Stanley. These guys, if the investment I've done in the research space is incredible, in the crypto space, these guys are invested in so very, very early stage in so many crypto companies that have billion-dollar valuations now. These guys are amazing, and to consider that they have a very, very low market cap, it's something I'm excited about. So if you're interested in learning more about crypto, where we explain everything to you, if you want to subscribe, you can go to our website, curzioresearch.com. It's a 50% discount. Again, I don't want to push it, and I'm getting a lot of questions on. If you want to buy it, buy it. We sell financial newsletters. That's how we make money, and we've made people a lot of money. And I think this trend is definitely going to continue. And I hope we see a pullback, which is going to open the door for more ideas. But more importantly, is when I look at Exodus coming out, I mean, this is a name that we're very familiar with. A lot of the names of security tokens are coming out, and they're coming to us, which is really cool. And we're getting great contacts, great ways to invest in these things. And that's going to continue because of credibility that we have in this space. That's going to open up to a lot of new ideas. And I'm not just talking about those of you who need to be an accredited investor, because what Exodus did was a Reg A offering. And the fact that they expanded that where you could raise more money in a Reg offering than ever means that any investor, or almost any investor, can now invest in these things. And we're going to have access to a lot of these things at early stage. So we're going to close this pretty soon. I'm opening up a little bit longer, so we're getting lots of demand, and I'm getting a lot of questions about it. If you're interested, fine. Again, it's crypto intelligence, doing very well right now. I'm expecting to have lots of more really, really cool ideas coming out. Very excited about it. And you could find that offer. The only place you'll find is on our website. Unless you're on an email list, we might send you something. But and that's just a banner on curzioresearch.com. So guys, covered a lot. Hopefully we didn't bore you. We don't want to make this a crypto podcast or anything, but this is the theme. And my job is try to bring you ideas that are going to make you money. And I'm trying to do that, especially through crypto, an industry that we are very, very engulfed in. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. And again, questions, comments, feel free to reach out to me anytime, guys. FrankCurzioResearch.com. Positive, negative feedback. Again, this is about you, not about me. I like that criticism, that constructive criticism. You do what your clients want and what they like, and that's how you build a brand and build a business. And that's why we've been successful so far, and we're growing, and things are really, really cool. So I just want to say thank you so much to all the listeners out there. I love you guys. And I'll see you in 7 days. Take care.